Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard, live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy 3-hour program lined up today. Among our guests, Nick Whalen, 30 minutes. Player props for tonight's action. Warren Sharp, his look at what happened yesterday and what he likes tonight. And Chicago legend in the broadcasting business, Mike North on the program, also a part of the Friday Football Invitational here at Circa, handicapping 7 games in college and the NFL every week. He'll be on talking Bears Commanders at that time. Paulie, pretty awesome day. Monday night doubleheader, 2 baseball games, one of which starts next hour.
That's right. And it's a big one for Toronto. It's not 100% it's over, but you're with 25-3 all time when you win the first 2 on the road. So suddenly it looked like Seattle was going to lose to Detroit. Now they could take a commanding lead if they can get it done.
I would call that a stolen victory last night by the Seattle Mariners.
Did you watch A-Rod on the pregame? He was awesome.
I did not.
This is a trap game. Our buddy Vasgersian was on. He did a great job. It's a trap game and a bad spot for Toronto because they're still on feeling themselves because they climbed the mountain and knocked off the Yankees. And then here comes Seattle, still with the adrenaline, even after winning in 15 innings.
They had no time to get over that, basically.
That's right. He had a great breakdown. He nailed it. And to go 0 for your last 23 as well, and what Miller did.
Does the same thing apply today for the Brewers?
I don't know. I don't feel good about an opener off the bat. Probably an opener and then Priester.
Yeah, and especially when you're taking on Blake Snell.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll dive into those games more throughout the entire show. And again, we'll keep you live, up to date with the betting numbers as the game progresses. Again, starting first pitch from American Family Field in Milwaukee coming up. Well, that's actually the late game. The American League game is obviously the early game today. And how about that leadoff home run last night? 1 hit after that. The 2 Monday nighters that we have in the National Football League. I'm looking right now on the screen. And this is, a 4, still a key number in the National Football League. And in football in general, not as key as 3, but there are plenty of 3.5s out there right now, nationally speaking, and there are multiple 4.5s, the way it appears. And the total in the first game, well, they're actually the same now, Paulie, 49.5 in the contest. I know that you bet the Commanders last week on the look-ahead number here.
Yep.
In the spot.
They're a good team. They're not getting talked about enough. Especially, I like them I like them tonight. Bet them next week against Dallas. Big stretch for this team. And love the coaching staff and Daniels. And I think they're going to get it done tonight and go to Dallas and win. And the Opta AI has been so good, and it's such a great product up on vsin.com that they think Bill's going to go under, and they're going to hold him in check. But this is a big opportunity here for Ben Johnson and the Bears on prime time. Off the bye to see what they look like and if they can beat a contender. Not to mention, it's the Hail Mary debacle. The rematch of what happened last year when you think, the Bears are pretty good. They might make the playoffs. The defense is playing well. They lost that game, and the season went to bleep, and they quit on their coach.
Yeah, now how about this? You mentioned that with the Opta AI numbers at vsin.com projecting Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt for only 52 yards. I've heard nothing but the exact opposite from people who are betting this game, and I think a lot of it obviously has to do with how bad the Bears are against opposing teams running the football. They've only played 4 games. Think about that. Most teams have already played 6. They've played 4, and they've still allowed the 9th most rushing yards to running backs in the entire league. And if you want to crunch it down and translate that to the fantasy world, they allow the 2nd most fantasy points per game to running backs. In total, they've allowed 563 yards on the ground. 8 teams have allowed more. And again, they've all played 2 more games than the Bears. The team in 10th, 1 spot behind Chicago, is Minnesota. They've only played 5 games. So there is that spot, and I think a lot of people going to battle tonight thinking that based on how bad they get, that's kind of like the equivalent of looking at how bad the Dolphins are against the ground game and what the backup was able to do yesterday for the Chargers. And if you laddered him, congratulations going on your vacation anytime soon.
That's right. A lot of guys like that yesterday. So I think that's going to be a big key to both of these games because the Bills have struggled against the run. And does Robinson go off in Algier? And what can the Bears do? What can the Commanders do on the ground against Chicago? That also, I think, could be a big game for Daniels if he was healthy. Now, the question is with the knee and the brace and if that's going to give him problems. But the Bears also play a lot of man-to-man defense. I think number 1 in the league. So you think he's just going to take off and scramble as well. And he's plus money to have 50 yards. And you know what we have to do in prime time games with the longest rush over as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm already on Caleb Williams, 10.5. But a good test here for the Bears. If you just think, well, you're outplayed by the Raiders. You beat the Cowboys, whoop-de-doo. I mean, this is a big opportunity here to see off the bye what Ben Johnson has and if they can hang with a contender and where the season's going to go from here. Because you win this, it's a good win on the road, and then you have the Saints at home. You could set yourself up for hopefully a 9-8 win season.
By the way, you said a key comment there talking about this game with Ben Johnson as the play caller off the bye. And in my discussions this week with Survivor partners, we kicked around using the Commanders. My concern was Ben Johnson off the bye. You know, Paulie, that we're going to see the really good stuff tonight.
You should.
Right. He's going to go into the bag of tricks, whatever he can. And a great write-up today talking about first touchdown scores in this game from Adam Burke at vsin.com. So when Ben Johnson, in his 3 year, when he was the OC of the Lions, in 3 years, they scored the first touchdown of the game 36 out of 55 times. That included the first touchdown in 2023 and 2024 when his team was off the bye. Rome Odunze already has 3 first-team touchdowns on the season. He has 6 targets in the red zone out of 15 total for wide receivers. So I'm tailing Adam on this. I bet him at 12-1. And he also is making a case for Caleb Williams, mobile quarterback, obviously. The Commanders have allowed 3 total touchdowns to running backs this year. So that he thinks there's a good angle Williams is going to get a carry inside the 5. He already has 8 rushing attempts for 41 yards and a touchdown inside the red zone. So great write-up there, great breakdown. And that was my thought all along, is that Ben Johnson's going to look awesome tonight with the play calling. So I went with Odunze and Williams to score the first touchdown in this game.
What do you think happens with Washington offensively if it's not Bill? Is he just going to mix it up and get everyone involved, a little bit of Ertz? Or what do you think happens if Debo, because Debo was plus 240 here to have 80 yards?
Well, okay, so good question. And I want to fire it back with I'll answer your question with a question. Because of the Bears being so inept against the ground, the ground game, is this a spot where we need to attack it with Deebo Samuel? He did not have a carry last week, which was a little surprising because he had a good game overall against the Chargers. But before that, he had 3 carries in his 2 previous games. You can bet him over 1.5 carries in this game, but it's like minus 150. But the rushing yards prop for Deebo tonight is around 5.5 or 6.5 yards at last check. It might be up. Books might be a little bit different on that. But isn't that like an angle here? If Krosky Merritt is going to be the number 1 guy, of course, other running backs will get carries, but also they will probably look at Deebo a couple times against the Bears and how bad they've been.
I think you'll know in the first quarter, in the first couple drives. Like, if they're going to keep gashing him on the ground, then we know what's going to happen in the game plan. And because Kingsbury's so good. But if they have success at least containing him and he's forced to throw and they can put him in 3rd and long or difficult, then we have a different ball game here. But I still don't know what to make of this defense because they were so good to start last year and then the wheels came off once they quit.
Right.
So tough. And we got weather, it looks like. Looks like we got wind here. We got wind. We have rain. That was supposed to happen a little bit in some other games. It didn't work out in the Carolina game, but it looks like weather could play a role in the second game.
Right. And in the early game now, again, I think this is a really good game. I think both games are actually really good tonight. Can't wait. Awesome night of sports. Now, the Falcons have only played 4 games, so keep that in mind. But they have allowed, the fewest rushing yards to running backs overall, not close, and only 1 touchdown. But here's what's even crazier. They have allowed through 4 games to running backs only 13 catches, 39 yards, and 1 touchdown. By far and away the best team in the league. Who's number 2? The Bills. They've only allowed 21 catches and 83 yards in the air to running backs in total. But, again, to your point of getting gashed on the ground, they allow more than 149 yards overall. Check that, 145 yards to running backs or to teams on the ground. And they've allowed 6 touchdowns to running backs, tied for 4th most in the league. So Bijan tonight, obviously the angle here would be him. And we had Warren Sharp on the program yesterday, the VSiN Pro Football Tailgate Show, and he made a great case, and he bet it early, but he was targeting Drake London with no Mooney in this game tonight. And he broke down, and he'll be on the show coming up in a little bit more than an hour and 20 minutes. But when Mooney doesn't play, that's usually when London goes off. His receptions prop is juice over 5.5. And his yards, about 72.5 to 74.5. But the Opta AI they have him getting about 80 yards in the game.
And Pitts has had 4 straight games with 4 catches. I think Pitts could get at least 50 yards as well. But this is another big opportunity for him. Are you going to be a contender? Are you going to get to 9-10 wins? It's your first home Monday night game since 2017. I can't believe that. And it's all got to be about Robinson on the ground and attack this Bills defense. And from the Bills' standpoint, they got to bounce back after they beat themselves and they were sloppy in losing to the Patriots at home with the silly turnovers. So I don't know if Atlanta can get stops, though. I disagree with some people on this. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. And I took a little bit of 20-1 at Caesars and Will Hill. Each team to have a touchdown and a field goal in both halves. I think both teams will move the ball in this one. I see it differently than a lot of people.
Well, the total's gone up.
But I know I was talking to other people like Paul Bovey and others that think it's going to be unders and player props under. I think this could be up and down the field with these teams here because I still don't, even though they look like they're improved, I don't know if I can get there with the Atlanta defense, certainly when you're taking a step up against Allen.
So both teams to score 1 touchdown and 1 field goal in each half.
20-1.
That's only in this game?
No, they offer it in both.
No, but I'm saying so it doesn't have to happen in both games tonight.
No, one game. Yeah, I think that's absolutely
totals up to 50 in a dome?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good prop. Yeah. They got over 200 props on these games. They brought their A game tonight.
All right. Paulie thinks you need to bet on this team's stats, and K-prop projections are very high on one of the starting pitchers going today. Details next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Thanks for watching today on YouTube TV, listening, SiriusXM Channel 158, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, or any of our terrific affiliates across the country. Right now, we head out to the Progressive Guest Line as Nick Whalen joins the program with RotoWire. Follow him on X at WHA, the number 1, EN. Nick, thanks for the time. Now that we have 6 data points for most of these teams in the National Football League banked at this point of the season, Paulie and I were just talking about, well, look, I mean, the AFC looks terrible. And here come the Chiefs. We bet them to win the Super Bowl yesterday. Are you all in like we are?
I don't know if I'm as all in as you guys are, but I totally understand it. I still don't love the price at plus 750 for a 3-3 team, but it absolutely feels like the Chiefs are turning the corner. And, I think you can throw out, the Lions were without a bunch of defensive backs last night, but this is really like 3 or 4 weeks in a row where I think Kansas City, despite taking a loss to Jacksonville in there, despite that ugly loss to Philly early in the season, I think this team continues to look better and better every week. I think the defense has bounced back really, really nicely. It's starting to look like a Chiefs defense once again. And even before Rashee Rice makes his return next week against the Raiders, and that number I saw up as high as 11.5 this morning, it really feels like the offense with the return of Xavier Worthy is hitting a different gear. I know it's not the Chiefs of 2022 or 2023, but just seeing the raw point totals for this team is not what we saw whatsoever in 2024, when it just felt like if they could get to 24, 25 points, that was a miracle. I mean, they're doing it a lot more effortlessly than they were early in the season. Certainly all of last year, things are coming easier. Patrick Mahomes has been a lot more efficient as a passer, but you guys said the biggest thing here, which is the AFC feels wide open, and honestly, the NFC to some degree, if we want to get into that, because it feels like every single week you're kind of waiting for the Lions or the Rams or the Packers or the Eagles, whoever it may be, to assert themselves as that top team. And even in wins, it's like, were you really that convinced by Green Bay hanging on to beat Cincinnati, the Rams, 17-3 over the Ravens yesterday? I think we're seeing the same thing happen in the AFC, and the Chiefs right now to win that division, guys, at plus 150, also very appealing to me.
I have to ask you about the Ravens now as well. This is unprecedented. They're 1-5 and they're even money to make the playoffs. So they have the 5th easiest schedule left. Harbaugh said, you're getting Lamar back. Guys are coming back. It's happened 4 times in history. I believe Alex Smith was on 2 of the teams, which is unbelievable. What do you think about futures on the Ravens? And to think the Steelers are 4-1 and Pittsburgh's 1-5, yet Pittsburgh's only like $1.60 to win the division.
Look, I get it, and I'm surprised that we didn't see more of an odd shift heading into the week. It's like, okay, so we had the expected results, right? We expected Pittsburgh to win. We expected Baltimore to lose. And it's like, all right, now we'll make the adjustments. But if you waited, you're getting a better deal on the Ravens. And I don't know anybody who thought Baltimore was going to come out and win that game yesterday against the Rams. You know, if you look at the Steelers' schedule, it's kind of the inverse of Baltimore, where the Ravens, you know, start with this really difficult schedule. It's a little bit easier for the Steelers early on, but things do pick up. You know, they have a very winnable game on Thursday night against the Joe Flacco Bengals. Although, you could see Pittsburgh slipping up against just about anybody. I know they're 4-1 right now, but this is not a bulletproof outfit by any means. After that, Packers, Colts, Chargers, Bengals again. We'll see where they're at that point. Bears, Bills, Ravens, and then, of course, they play the Ravens in Week 18, which could be a very meaningful game. So I think it's a little bit of forecasting on both sides. I mean, we haven't seen the Ravens backed into this kind of corner before, but this is a team that has been prone to slow starts. They were 0-2 last season, then won 7 of their next 8 right after that. But the big thing for me, guys, like, I think the offense will come around. I think Lamar is going to look like Lamar once he's back after the bye. I just wonder about the defense, because the defense is so bad right now that even against these middling teams, if you want to say whoever the 22nd best team in the NFL is, it's not a lock to me that the Ravens win that game like they would in years past, because if the Ravens don't get to 30 points, they're liable to lose to just about anyone. And even before the injuries, I mean, this defense was bottom 5 in a lot of the key advanced numbers that you look at. And, you know, the idea of Roquan Smith coming back and Kyle Hamilton getting healthy and Marlon Humphrey and those guys, it's all well and good. I think it makes the defense look better on paper, but we're yet to see those results, even when those guys were in the lineup the first 5 weeks.
All right, so let's look at props that we have on tonight's doubleheader. You bet Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt very early in the week. You got a great number here at 61.5. He's up to, very high 60s at this point. Do you still think, based on how bad the Bears defense has been against the running game this year, do you still think he's worth a play?
I think he is, guys. I think I got to stick with it. Like you said, grabbed it in the low 60s. I saw it as high as 70.5 late last night, but I'm buying in on the workload improvement that we saw specifically last week for Krosky-Merritt. Lit up the Chargers in the second half of that game. You know, Washington goes down 10-0 early. They hold the Chargers scoreless the rest of the game. Finished with well over 100 yards against what had been a pretty solid run defense in the LA Chargers. And, now you get a really, really good matchup against Chicago. It's not quite Miami Dolphins bad, but the Bears are close when you look at some of the numbers defensively. On top of that, Washington might be without Chris Rodriguez. He's been banged up, dealing with a calf injury. That's 7-8 carries per game. Maybe some of those trickle down to Krosky-Merritt. And again, to pile on the Bears here, guys, dead last in yards per carry allowed at over 6 per attempt. They've already given up 19 runs of at least 10 yards on the season. I think maybe the most convincing data point is they're the only team against which the Raiders were able to run the ball. I mean, Ashton Genty went wild in that game. The Raiders as a team ran for 240 yards before the Bears bye week. The Raiders are averaging 81 rushing yards in their other games this season. So I think this is a spot where we see Krosky-Merritt involved early on. That was not the case to begin the season. Feels like they're finally taking the training wheels off of him in Washington. And you're without some of your weapons in the passing game as well. I think this has to be a run-heavy script.
Yeah, great call. Based on everything you just said, I was making kind of the case for Deebo Samuel because his numbers are so short tonight in the ground game. But you think that Daniels is also going to be running quite a bit?
I think so. And that, again, it just plays into this idea that the way to beat the Bears is to just pound them on the ground. And, I think that's ideally what Washington wants to do. Even when they have a healthy Terry McLaurin, it's still a team that likes to win games through the running game. So, without Terry McLaurin, without Noah Brown, I think you lean even more heavily on Jayden Daniels alongside Krosky-Merritt. Looking at the over 7.5 rush attempts for Jayden Daniels, he's gone over this number in 2 of 3 games so far. And the other thing is that the Bears, despite being this terrible run defense, some of those numbers early in the season can be skewed if you play like the Bills and the Ravens. They haven't even faced a true running quarterback yet this season. Even Geno Smith ran for over 30 yards on this defense. Not exactly the second coming of Michael Vick. The only semi-mobile quarterback they faced is J.J. McCarthy in week 1, who only carried it 2 times. So you have a really bad run defense that hasn't even had to prepare for a running quarterback yet.
What do you think in the other game from props and how you think it'll play out with Buffalo and Atlanta?
Yeah, this is one where I ended up staying away from the side. I obviously the Bills are the better team, but you got Atlanta coming off a bye. They're at home. 4.5 is a pretty attractive number, but I just couldn't quite bring myself to bet on the Atlanta Falcons. One of those teams you just wonder, are they actually going to show up week to week? So it stayed away from the side. One way I'm playing this game, though, is looking at the anytime touchdown market, specifically for Tyler Algier. You can get an anytime touchdown at 2-1. He has the same number of red zone carries as Bijan Robinson this season. Those of us in the fantasy world have been frustrated by this for years. He has more carries inside the 10-yard line than Robinson does, 7 versus 3 so far this season. And I know the Bills' run defense, held down pretty well against New England last week, but Baltimore ran all over this team. New Orleans ran all over this team. Miami had some success on the ground. They will have Ed Oliver out there tonight, but I think this is a spot where, first and foremost, Atlanta really tries to win this game on the ground. And if they have, a red zone opportunity or two, it's usually Tyler Algier who gets that first crack.
Which receiver goes off for the Bears in this game?
It's got to be Roma Dunze. I think it's got to be Roma Dunze. I like the over 67.5 receiving yards for him. Also toying with the over 24.5 on the longest reception. He's got 14 catches that have gone for double-digit yardage already this season. I think we see volume from the Bears trying to test that Washington secondary. I think it's a really interesting matchup where the Bears probably won't be able to run it that well on Washington. Washington should be able to run it well on Chicago. So I think this is a Caleb Williams type of spot for the Bears. That Washington defense did play really well down the stretch against the Chargers last week, but it's a defense that's given up the second most explosive passing plays in the NFL this season. They're 29th in average depth of target allowed. Defense grades out really well against the run, really badly against the pass. So kind of an opposite type of matchup for both teams. And look, if I think this could be a big night for Caleb Williams, I think Roma Dunze has to be heavily involved.
Very good. Do you have a favorite bet or a best bet for tonight, or are they all pretty much the same?
I would have to go with the Kroski Merritt number,
okay.
Just because I got in on that one early. But, as far as the props go, I would say I value them relatively equally. I do like the Daniels one quite a bit, really banking on that idea that this Bears defense, which is not very good, which is missing guys in the secondary, just has not had to prepare for a quarterback like Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
Agree.
Hey, Nick, great spot. Awesome to talk to you again today. Best of luck tonight.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
There you go. Nick Whalen on the Progressive Guest Line with RotoWire. Follow him on X at Whalen, but there's no L. It's the number 1. WHA1EN.
Even money to make the playoffs, 1-5. Unbelievable.
I mean,
he's right about the schedule getting easier coming up, but they can't stop anything.
Well, they can go on a rampage once Jackson comes back. They could.
They could.
Yeah. The bottom of the AFC, Paulie, this is like no hyperbole. When you look at how many teams are true bottom feeders, it's got to be the worst we've seen in years.
There's some crap.
I'll run it all down coming up a little bit later on. Win, lose up next. Paulie will tell you about an 80-1, a 90-1, and an all-time bad beat next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We'll talk to Warren Sharp coming up in 15 minutes. His look at the two games that we have tonight on the betting board. One other game, by the way, in the early window next week, Saints at the Bears. Bears play tonight, obviously. Chicago 5.5, total 45.5.
Oh, mama. Caleb Williams for all the cheese. This is something to look at in Survivor. This is a tough one. Let's see how they look tonight. But I'll tell you, the Saints have been feisty at least. And Rattler is okay. I'll just say that, serviceable. So, but that would give me pause.
Total too low if we have good weather in Chicago?
Yeah.
I think, the Saints are playing in some of these higher scoring games. The Bears can as well. So I think 45.5 is kind of low in my opinion. What do you make of the Giants catching 7 in Denver with a total of 39.5 or 40?
Bo Nix was bad. Sean Payton called a bad game. The penalties killed them. They were in second and long a lot, beat themselves. There was a drive when they were in Jets territory. They had 3rd and inches, false start, back them up. Nix completed a long pass. Holding comes back. They were pathetic, but they got the win. But this is, I think I made a comment a couple weeks ago, this won't go well for Dart. I can't say that now. These kid's too good. And between Dart and Scatterboo and little Jordan Humphrey getting all those targets, and he'll make it work with Robinson. It's a great Denver defense, but it's also a good Giants defense. Maybe Nix doesn't move the ball. I'd say under. Maybe the Giants can hang around.
Yeah, I would also look at that juice right now here at Circa and see it 7 minus 115. Maybe it comes off the 7. I don't know when that would be, like tonight, maybe when limits go up later in the week, it comes off 7 to 6.5. So I think if you can find 7 right now, minus 110, or even better than that at some spots. I think that would be the look, in my opinion. But here's another thing to look at with Dart. The Broncos defense did it again yesterday. They do not allow running quarterbacks to do anything.
Great call. Yep.
So if he's going to have
going.
He'll probably have a total in the 40s for the rushing yards. My first look would be to go under that.
Yep.
How good is this game? Colts
Big.
at the Chargers.
The Chargers are going to be a very good team when they get healthy and get everyone back. But it's again, I don't know. It's too many injuries. And the fact that you couldn't stop Miami and blew a 13-point lead. The other thing is the conservative play call. I think it was 8 trips in the red zone, but only 2 touchdowns. Come on, guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Harbaugh loves to do that, by the way, on 4th and short. He's so conservative, man. You got to start going for some of these touchdowns. They easily could have lost that game.
Loves to kick 4th and 1, 4th and 2. McConkey was great, but you need Johnston back as well. I would take the Colts in this one.
By the way, Savage got out of it. So the Blue Jays will come up in the bottom of the first, trailing 3-0. And I'm pretty sure he struck out the side.
Oh, man.
He did, but he also threw... Where's the pinch count on this kid? Yeah, it's like around 33, 34 pitches, I believe.
I believe Naylor also stole the base. I think he's 21 for 21 with Seattle.
Since he came over?
That's incredible.
Yeah. I think the Colts are just better form right now, too.
Yeah.
Lucky to win the game yesterday against this team who's now back playing at home. Packers opened 7 against the Cardinals, down to 6.5.
Dead wrong. Brissett was good. Should have won the
he
game.
was, yeah.
I thought that was holding on McBride in the end zone.
I did, too.
Could have lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like how Green Bay's playing.
That's off the bye yesterday.
Only 2 takeaways on the season. Second worst. Second fewest. Jets finally got theirs. That's crazy. I think that point spread's way too high. Not to mention Murray could come back. Can't do it.
You know, I had a piece of the Colts on a money line parlay and also a 3-team teaser yesterday. And it basically came down to that game on both of them. And I thought the Cardinals got absolutely screwed.
Mm-hmm. A lot of contact there.
Yeah, yep. Should have been called. It wasn't. I got very fortunate to have those go down as winners. The Commanders are playing at the Cowboys. Washington 2.5, total 54.5. Look at that total now.
Wow.
Still bettable to the over?
It's
like Air Force games in college.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know what we're going to get with Washington tonight, but they're going to be on short rest next week at Dallas, back home after losing yesterday to Carolina.
Too much respect for the Cowboys.
Did you bet the Commanders?
Yes,
look
I
ahead.
do.
That's
Yes.
what I thought. Okay,
yes.
All right.
It's too low, and they've lost. They've lost to the Bears now and Carolina. So I don't think they're going to slow down Washington at all. The Sunday night game's pretty good as well. Atlanta can be a playoff team. They have the weapons. Now they're going to San Francisco with all these injuries. Niners only 3.5.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, down to 3 here now at Circa. So Atlanta playing at home tonight on a Monday night game. They're going to have to fly across the country on short rest. Niners are back from playing the afternoon game and so many injuries. Without knowing what's going to happen tonight, I would say give me Atlanta plus the points.
Well, Shanahan's still making it work, and Mac Jones. Bourne was awesome. They have the weapons. How about Jennings? After the game, said he's playing with 5 broken ribs and 2 sprained ankles.
Yep.
Oh.
But also, how good did Bourne look yesterday?
Right.
So I would say this. I don't think you can even knock Shanahan for the Coach of the Year race yesterday. Because if they still somehow win like 10, 11 games, you know that before Kurt, listen to me, you just said Kurt Warner. I was going to say the same name. Fred Warner, before he got knocked out of the game and out for the season, that went, then the Buccaneers on offense went punt, 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 Warner's out, touchdown, 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 all 3 drives, 70-plus yards.
Yeah,
you think he means anything to the defense?
Yeah. Killer.
What's a guy to do in Shanahan's shoes here?
I know.
So
It's too bad, and it's every year. This could be epic a week from tonight. We could get Game 6 NLCS and Game 7 ALCS, along with another Monday night doubleheader. The games are staggered. The MVP, Baker Mayfield in Detroit. Lions 4.5. Lions should open up a can.
Well, here's the guy I was talking about before the break. So think about how many injuries the Lions had in the secondary last night against the Chiefs.
Yep.
And then think about what boneheaded Brian Branch did after the game. And Dan Campbell came out immediately to the media and said, I love the guy. That's completely unacceptable. You cannot go after another player like that. What happens to him Is he going to?
I would think suspended.
I probably as well. I would guess he's going to be suspended for the game. So if they're going to be down again, like four or five guys, maybe more. And I know that the Ibuka injury, man, every time I even think about it, it's gut wrenching. But it doesn't matter to Mayfield right now. Again, he's throwing to like his sixth wide receiver and making it work.
Yep.
So this Lions secondary could get torched the entire time.
He has been suspended for a game.
That's done?
Yeah.
That's in? Okay. All right. By the way,
I know I'm with you. It's just whoever they throw out there. We got a great tweet. I didn't know this was a hot take to suggest Mayfield's the MVP. These Chiefs fans are out of their minds. Oh, Mahomes, they're 3-3. Okay, I don't care who's hurt. That's gone.
Ringer dinger, or is that foul?
Foul
by a couple of
I
feet.
thought it was okay.
Can you imagine back-to-back leadoff home runs?
But this listener was great. You could take guys out of the stands. Mayfield's going to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think Detroit's too good offensively, and not to mention the issues that Tampa has with all the injuries, offensive line and the defense. Godwin and Irvine already out. Bowles announced.
Yep. So that's not good for them. I would also Gibbs and Montgomery maybe under their rushing yards prop. Springer got a hold of another one. That's going to be a double off the wall.
Yeah.
Almost a home run. All right.
You got that? And then Texans at Seahawks.
That's a really good game.
Is. The George Costanza team again. They're awesome on the road. They stink at home. 3-42.5. Big move. Here's your big move. I love the Seattle defense. They did an excellent job. They can be good. I don't know what happened against Tampa. Again, more credit for Mayfield. 29-33 in that game. But this JSN stuff, I mean, it's unbelievable what he's doing. The ladders and Opta AI nailing it back to back, and that was probably 7-8 to 1 to have 160 yards
against a really good Texans defense. Like, where does he open up with the prop? It's going to have to be mid to high 80s now, probably. After another, he was scorching the Jags secondary the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Gets whatever he wants, and Darnold's been awesome so far this year. But the Texans are going to be off a bye here, and you're exactly right. You want Seattle on the road like they were yesterday. And what does that say about the defense overall? Yeah, scorched last week to the MVP, Mayfield and company, but without a bunch of guys again yesterday, and Lawrence really couldn't do anything. That's a run for the Blue Jays, by the way. They get one back right away. We got a text from one of our buddies, professional bettor, during the show, basically saying that the ceiling on Trevor Lawrence is so low. Might be right with that.
Yep. VSiN Pro subscribers now have exclusive access to all new AI player prop projections powered by Opta AI, the same trusted brand behind soccer analytics in the UK. AI-driven projections for quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs across the most popular prop categories compared directly to current DraftKings lines to highlight value. 2 games tonight. Get up there now and look at them. They got strong cases for a lot of unders and overs up there. And some big-name players. You sort by player, game, or stat and track how projections shift throughout the week with updates and trends. VSiN Pro subscribers see them now. VSiN.com/props. VSiN.com/props.
It was a terrible error by Naylor at first, trying to pitch the ball back to Gilbert, who was covering. I don't know, man. I think a live look here at the Blue Jays at around plus 160, not a bad idea. Down 3-1 here, bottom of the first. The whole game's left. They make a ton of contact. All right, Warren Sharp next. We'll get into his reactions to Week 6 yesterday, what he likes tonight coming up.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Warren Sharp joins the program now, as he does every single Monday at this time. He is on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow him on X. He's at Sharp Football. The website is sharp.football. Warren, good afternoon. To the surprise of pretty much, I'm going to guess, nobody, Brian Callahan was finally fired in Tennessee. I mean, the writing was on the wall here, right? There's no way that they were going to continue with this guy. So just rip the Band-Aid off here and get rid of him?
I believe so. Look, I mean, this team obviously struggled to win games this year, and it was struggling to win games last year. But the thing that stood out to me was just the inefficiency that they had when they were going about it and the predictability of their offense. When they had 3+ wide receivers out on the field, This team was averaging 3.3 air yards per attempt. 21% of attempts went 10 plus yards. That was dead last in the NFL. They were throwing the ball on these early downs in the first half of games, short and underneath when they had 3 wide receivers out on the field. But when they had less than 3 wide receivers out on the field, they were throwing the ball deep down the field, the exact opposite, averaging 11.8 air yards per pass attempt. And the efficiency offensively, it was just so predictable based upon the personnel that they had, what their passing strategy was going to be, allowed teams to game plan to just slow down the run, and we knew how to limit the pass based upon do they have 3 or 2 or fewer wide receivers out there. What was the result of all this predictability on early downs in the first half of games? They scored 1 touchdown in the first half of games all year long on 37 drives. They became the first offense since 2013, we're talking about over 10 years, to have at least 35 drives in the first half of games through week 6 and to score fewer than 2 touchdowns. So this was just a pathetic offense. He was an offensive-minded guy working with a young quarterback. Just too much predictability, poor scheme. His dad was the offensive line coach. That run game was terrible. One of the lowest numbers in yards before contact per rush. Just all around bad for the Tennessee Titans. And I don't know what they're going to do from here the rest of the season or even next year beyond that, but certainly Brian Callahan wasn't the answer.
What do you think about what happened Sunday night with Detroit? They were going up and down the field early, and then there were some issues in the red zone. St. Brown had the drop on 4th down. What were your takeaways from last night?
Yeah, so I'm going to zoom out even further beyond that. I had some serious issues with the way that John Morton, the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, game planned against the Kansas City Chiefs in this game, and then lack of adjustments being made. It might not have been obvious like watching the game, but if you go back and think about it a little bit more, the Detroit Lions had a very high run rate on first down, and those runs were terrible. They called runs on 54% of their first downs in the first half of games. Overall, 77% run on first downs. Those runs averaged minus 0.01 EPA per rush, 39% success. But when they passed the ball on first down, plus 0.58 EPA, 91% success. Jared Goff was 11 of 11 on those passes, averaged 11 yards per pass attempt. I mentioned last week how the Kansas City Chiefs were dead last in defense against play action, and the Detroit Lions led the NFL in usage of play action. But in this game, for whatever reason, the Lions used play action on just 29% of early downs, which was right around a league average rate. Didn't really attack the weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And the crazy part about this, guys, is they were running so much on first down. But when they had just 1 yard to go, they had 1 yard to go 4 separate times in this game. You know what they did? Passed the ball all 4 times. Didn't run it once in those situations when it's optimal to run the football. The first one was that play of the game at the very beginning where they march all the way down the field, 70 yards, decide to pass the ball with the trick play to Jared Goff. That doesn't score a touchdown because it's ruled being illegal. And then on 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, just on the other side of the 2-minute drive, they decide to have Jared Goff throw 3 passes. Guess what? It's right on the other side of the 2-minute warning. You get the first down, you're going to have a timeout from that 2-minute warning. You can do whatever you want. But instead of all these dink and dunk passes that go incomplete, Detroit Lions give the ball right back to the Kansas City Chiefs with 2 minutes left. They can kneel out the game. So I was very unimpressed. Even though the Lions looked somewhat efficient, didn't punt the ball a ton, I was unimpressed by the strategy that John Morton brought to the table. And if they're going to go up against good teams and win this year without Ben Johnson, they're going to need John Morton to do a better job of game planning and scheming tactically against the weaknesses of their opponents.
Yeah, that's
Very
a great
good.
nugget to file away for the rest of the season for sure. Warren Sharp, our guest, Progressive Guest Line. Your annual preview book is like the Bible when it comes to the NFL. It's must read for everybody to get ready for the season. And one of the great things that you do is point out like all of the rest advantages and disadvantages. It's like pure gold. What have you noticed so far this year, how big that is for these teams?
Well, rest is playing a big factor. And the 2 biggest spots where rest was the biggest factor so far this year, just slam dunk, easy money. The last one was Pittsburgh against Cleveland, where Cleveland is coming back from London, does not have a bye, has to go home, then travel to Pittsburgh. Obviously, that's a short trip, but Pittsburgh with 2 weeks of rest because they had a bye going up against Cleveland. That game wasn't even close. The other previous big one was the Washington Commanders, week 3 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, who were traveling off of the second Monday night game, a 10 p.m. Monday night game on the road for a 1 p.m. kickoff. The Washington Commanders played the Thursday before, so they had 4 days of rest, extra rest, compared to the Raiders, who were on 5 total days of rest. Even with Marcus Mariota, what was that final score? 41-24, easily covered the 3 points. I was interviewed by the Washington Post prior to that Commanders game, and I had some quotes on that in that piece. And the NFLPA executive spokesperson said that they don't believe rest factors into games, so they don't really care about it in the schedule as being off. And you and I both know that that's not true whatsoever. Just like you don't even have to look at data to realize that a team on a short week versus a team with extra rest is some sort of an advantage, but the data clearly backs it up. And so if the NFL doesn't care, that's fine, but it's going to hurt certain teams, and it could help our pocketbooks in the future if we bet some of these rest spots moving forward.
Absolutely. How about your favorite prop in the first game with the Bills and Falcons?
Bills and Falcons, I just looked at Drake London receiving props. I already bet this earlier in the week. I took his receptions over. I took his yardage over. Without Darnell Mooney on the football field, night and day different in terms of the activity that Drake London gets in the receiving game. His target rate basically doubles. So I see a lot of targets in the future here for Drake London in this game, and that's going to result in receptions and yards. So relatively square, pretty easy cookie cutter look there, but that's what I did for the first game.
Okay, and then what about the last game, or the second game, I should say, with the Commanders, a home favorite here to the Bears tonight, Warren?
Yeah, I'm going to go with old Bill. And this is not a surprise. Everybody in the DC area loves Bill. But the fact of the matter is he's going up against the Chicago Bears defense, which has been exploited for long, explosive runs by pretty much every running back who has faced them. The Las Vegas Raiders couldn't run the football until they fell in love with going up against the Chicago Bears. And Ashton Jeanty had a 64-yarder and Raheem Mostert had a 37-yarder, 2 in the same game. The week before, Dallas Cowboys, Javonte Williams had a 22-yarder. The week before that, Jahmyr Gibbs had a 42-yarder. David Montgomery had an 18-yarder. The week before that was week 1, and Jordan Mason had a 19-yarder. So I looked at the over on the longest rushing attempt for Bill Jacory Krosky-Merritt of the Washington Commanders. He's done it 2 straight games in a row. He's got a quarterback who has now a little bit more mobility with his knee injury healing a bit more. So the threat of the quarterback keeping the ball on some of these runs is going to be at an all-time high. And I think that, coupled with the fact his defense is so terrible against running back runs to begin with, should give us the upside for Bill to have at least one run longer than his longest rush. I think I bet at 14.5. I think it's 15.5 right now. I'm not quite sure it matters. I think he's going to have one that probably is 20 plus yards.
Do you really? Okay, very good. Yeah, because it's still moving. It looks like 16.5, but it sounds like you'd still play that. Yeah, and the Bears are awful in the second level and also the open field as well. So, Warren, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for the time. Best of luck tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
There
you,
you go.
sir.
Warren Sharp, Progressive Guest Line on X at Sharp Football. The website is sharp.football. So the stuff with London in the first game, 5.5 catches, over like minus 150 if you shop around. And the yardage prop is in the low 70s there. But it makes sense when there's no Mooney in that game like there is tonight. And I'm trying to see if I can find anything below 16.5 right now for Krosky-Merritt. And it looks like it's 16.5 pretty much across the board, or even higher than that at some spots for the longest rush in the game.
There's a great breakdown on Callahan and the Titans. Mike McCoy is the interim. And the Titans have gone from firing their GM, Robinson, to firing Vrabel, to firing their GM, Rand Carthon, to firing Brian Callahan, all at separate times.
Good game plan that they have here.
It's just nuts what they've done. Oh.
The Mariners with no damage, by the way, in the top of the second. So we go to the bottom half now, and it's 3-2 Seattle. I talked about this before we got Warren on. I grabbed the Blue Jays. I think it was around plus 158 to come back and win the game.
There's a bad error by Naylor.
Terrible error.
It's a routine play, easy ground ball, and he flipped it past Gilbert, which allowed a run to score, and a guy went to second base.
Yeah, that's no good right there.
Yep.
Got to be better than that, man. This is to go to the World Series now that we're talking about. Up next, the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend. Some people have called it the best job in our lifetime. I'm not. It's very good. It's on the list. I'm not so sure it's number one. We'll tell you what it is next.